ဒီနေ့မြန်မာပြည်နေနဲ့ဆိုရင်တော့ညချမ်းတရားပွဲပေါ့စင်ကာပူနေနဲ့ဆိုရင်တော့ midnight တောင်ဖြစ်လိမ့်မယ် midnight တရားပွဲတောင်ဖြစ်ခါနေပြီလူရှိများဖြစ်တဲ့အင်္ဂလန်နိုင်ငံရှက်ဖီလ်ကဒေါက်တာရဲမြင့်ထော်ဆန်းဆန်းအေးနောက်ပြီးတော့သမီးဒေါက်တာဂျက်စီကာမြင့်တို့နောက်ပြီးတော့အမေရိကန်နိုင်ငံကယ်လီဖိုးနီးယားနော်ဒေါက်တာရောဘတ်သိန်းဒေါက်တာဆန်းဆန်းရှိန် and family Los Angeles ကစူပေါင်းပြီးတော့ဒီနေ့ဒီတရားပွဲကိုဖြစ်မြောက်အောင်ကမကထလုပ်ပြီးတော့ကျင်းပတာပဲဖြစ်ပါတယ်အခု online မှာနာကြားနေကြတဲ့ပြည်သက်အတွက်ရောနောက်ပိုင်းကျမှFacebook ပေါ်တို့ YouTube ပေါ်တို့ဆက်လက်ပြီးတော့နာကြားမဲ့ပြည်သက်အတွက်ရောဒီနေ့ဘုံစဉ်းစားရတဲ့တရားကတော့ဒီဒေါက်တာရဲမြင့်တို့နောက်ပြီးတော့သမီးဂျက်စီကာနဲ့တငယ်ချင်းအကြံပြုတဲ့အတိုင်းနေ့စဉ်ဘဝမှာစိတ်ပျော်ရွှင်အောင်ဗုဒ္ဓတရားတော်ကိုဘယ်လိုအသုံးပြုမှာတော့အဲ့ဒီဟာလေးဘုံတွေးထားတယ်တခြားဆရာတော်ကြီးတွေဟောတဲ့တရားတွေလည်းပဲဒီကောင်းစီးပါပဲဒီကောင်းစီးလို့ပြောချင်မှပြောမယ်ဒါမဲ့ရွေချက်ကတော့ဒီအတွက်ဒီဟာပါပဲနေ့စဉ်ဘဝမှာလူတွေစိတ်ချမ်းသာပြီးတော့တယောက်နဲ့တယောက် negative emotion နဲ့နဲအောင်အဲ့ပုံစံမျိုးပေါ့နော်ဒါလေးကကောင်းစီးပါဒီအနေရှေ့ဆက်ဘုံအင်္ဂလိပ်လိုအဓိကထားပြီးတော့ရှင်းပြဖို့ရည်ရွယ်ထားပါတယ် So today this online Dhamma talk is initiated by Dr. Ye Mien, Tosan San A and daughter Dr. Jessica Mien from Sheffield in the United Kingdom and also Dhamma friends Dr. Robert Thane, Dr. San Shane and family from Los Angeles, United States of America. The two families have come together to organize this Dhamma discussion. As it has been suggested to me today, the focus of my reflection is how to live and how to lead a happy life on day-to-day basis, not just when we are in a meditation retreat, but when we go about our busy life, working, interacting with people, consuming news that comes to us non-stop through social media, through television, through printed newspapers and maybe books also. A lot of information means we don't have time to properly process the information that comes our way. when we don't have a proper, processing of the information that we consume, pieces of information that we are confronted with on daily basis actually have a lot of impact on us, especially negative one. Why negative one? Because although we come across both positive and negative news, we don't actually remember a lot of positive news. We remember only negative ones. Because we need to survive, we need to be aware of dangers. It's okay sometimes to not notice the positive news. Okay, we may miss out something, but that's about it. But when it comes to negative news, we need to pay attention to it, because sometimes it's about life and death. It can be dangerous. So, with that, we all become negatively biased. We remember more of negative news than the positive one. That doesn't mean that we have more negative things in our life. Certainly, it doesn't mean that we have no positive things in our life. But it's just that we have to pay more attention to negative things. So that becomes our habit. So this is the first point that we need to pay attention. Okay, if we pay too much attention to negative things and just don't notice positive things at all, if that happens, we need to increase our awareness. We need to increase our mindfulness. We need to calm down our emotion. We need to calm down our thought. Being obsessed with negative news, negative things, that can be a very good signal to check our own emotion, to check our own thought. Sometimes we get agitated easily because we are bombarded with negative news. We think we are bombarded with negative news. Because when we are obsessed with negative news, it goes without saying that we won't notice positive ones. Our brain, in our brain, if the amygdala, part of our brain, is active, naturally we are going to notice only negative things, not positive ones. Although we are surrounded by many good people, by a largely functional system, a secure environment, we wouldn't notice them. We just obsessed with one particular negative things, and the mind will just spin around that again and again. So today, I'd like to invite you to focus on your daily life. Your daily life. When we talk about daily life, in Burmese we say Sa Wut Ne Ye. Sa Wut Ne Ye. Three things. Sa is there's eating. One type of consumption. Ne is shelter, housing. This is also another necessary consumption. Sa Wut Ne Ye. Or wood. The second one. The second is actually wood is clothing, which is also a necessary consumption that we have to do. The third one is neye, that is shelter. And we need a shelter. It may not be on daily basis, but fairly quite close to us is another issue. Jamaye, Sa Wut Ne Ye, Jamaye. Jamaye is health care. So, if we want to be happy in daily life, we need to pay attention to these four. Sa Wut Ne Ye, Jamaye. That is food, clothing, housing, and also health care. They are essential things. Essential. For monks, we use another term, we use another word. We call them pisi labor. That is four requisite. They mean the same thing. We consume these things on daily basis. That is why I invite you to look at them. If we become agitated around these issues. Why? Because we are all consumers. Some people consume the necessity, the necessity. Some people, they consume more. Not just, what is necessary, what is essential. But they use these consumptions to get recognition in the society. If we do that, we will have to buy more clothes. We spend more on clothing, more on food, more on shelter, housing. And here we need to move around because these days, people drive to work. That means, having a car is another necessity for many people. So if we examine them, how we consume them on daily basis, then we are going to find out when we are unhappy, why we are unhappy. And when we are happy, why we are happy. So this is the what I would say, the routine that we have. If we are happy with our routine, then I would think that we will lead a happy life. Before I examine these consumptions, how we consume, I want to repeat one thing that I usually do whenever I talk about happiness. We start thinking about happiness on two occasions. One is when we are excited and we think we are happy. We equate excitement with happiness. On many occasions, I have explained that excitement is very expensive and the same thing cannot excite you many times. You get bored with something, and when something doesn't excite you anymore, you don't get happiness out of that if you equate excitement with happiness. If we look at our routine, like Sawut Neyi, Jamayi, or the daily consumption of food, clothing, shelter, and maybe transport, and from time to time, sometimes vitamins, sometimes medicine, it wouldn't be feasible to expect excitement out of this. If you expect excitement out of these routine consumption, you will have to spend a lot of money because you need to change things. Actually, that's what we do. We keep changing our menu because we are not happy with the same dishes on daily basis. So excitement is one thing that we need to understand and take care of if we are serious about happiness. The second thing that prompts us to think about happiness is when we are unhappy, when we are agitated, when we are so stressed out, and we start questioning why. Okay, I'm so unhappy. Like that. So, with regard to this second point, when we become unhappy, of course, we are unhappy sometimes. Everybody is. Unless someone becomes totally enlightened. But happiness and unhappiness, they are habit. Which one we choose to develop? Is it happiness or unhappiness? That's within our capacity. This is where Buddhism differs from other religions. In other religions, you need to submit yourself to Almighty Being, to Creator. In Buddhism, the responsibility of being happy and unhappy is largely with ourselves. Okay. So that is self-responsibility. When we talk about karma or kantiya in Burmese, we talk about self-responsibility. When we talk about meditation, we also talk about self-responsibility together with self-improvement. We believe it's possible to do this ourselves. Even the Buddha wouldn't do it for us. He just shows the way. He's our guidance. But we need to do the job ourselves. So my first point is we need to be clear that excitement and happiness are not the same. We can be happy without excitement. Drinking in simple hot water like this. If you are mindful, it can give you a lot of happiness. This is mindful consumption. In Buddhist education, the first lesson is education of consumption. Whatever education we acquire, if it's without education of consumption, there's no guarantee that we will have a peaceful and happy life. Like it or not, we are all consumers. We are all consumers. We consume to survive. We consume for our welfare and well-being. As I said earlier, some people, they do more, they consume more because they want recognition from their neighbors, from the community, from the society, that they can do more, they can eat more, they can consume more. Maybe food, maybe clothing, maybe car, maybe house. They want recognition because without being recognized by the society as somebody who can do better, they are not at peace with themselves. Sometimes they even feel inferior. Sometimes they feel being ignored. They feel not being accepted by the society. So in order to get accepted, to get recognized by the society, by way of drawing attention, people consume more. To consume more, you need to work harder. Okay. There's no windfall of money and the resources. We need to work for them. So if we talk about Buddhist education as education of consumption, we learn sa wut ne ye. Sa wut ne ye. Sa, okay, why we eat? Why we have to clothe ourselves? Ne ye, why we need a shelter? Okay, these are fundamental understanding of human life. But sometimes we think we don't need to think about them. We just eat. We just put on new clothes. We just change clothes every day. And we walk into our own home, our own shelter, okay, without paying attention why we need this. I'm trying to say that we consume as if we are a sleepwalker. We are not mindful of what we do. So to begin with eating, every day we eat. Okay, we have breakfast, we have lunch. That's 2 meals for monks and nuns, and maybe more for lay people. So each time you eat, each time you're going to prepare food, each time you're going to shop, okay, your food, you're going to supermarket, each time you order something online, you need to come back to basics. That is, okay, I need to consume this food because this body needs to survive. Without this food, the body wouldn't be healthy. Actually, it wouldn't survive. How many days we can go without food? Not many. Not many. And once you have taken your breakfast, you know how many hours it's going to last. It wouldn't last that long. In a few hours' time, you need another meal. You can call that lunch, you can call that dinner, whatever. Because the food that you eat has its limit in terms of nutrition, in terms of how long the body can hold, and also how long we can consume and how much we can consume. So we are all faced with limitation, and we need to live with this limitation. But each time we are going to have something, maybe water, maybe before drinking water, this body is thirsty. It needs liquid. It needs liquid. So with compassion for the body, if we take water, if we take food, we will be happy without excitement. We don't need excitement, but we will be happy. Why? Because the motivation is correct. The motivation is compassion for the body. So many times during the day, you take tea, coffee, you drink water. They are the occasion that you should have this compassionate thought. It wouldn't take you that long. Maybe it will take you maybe half a minute, 30 seconds. 30 seconds. Before I take this water, a sip of water, maybe it doesn't take me 30 seconds even to just feel compassion for my body and then take this water. And when we have our meal, our lunch, our breakfast, our lunch, starting from the time we prepare it, and then when we sit down at the table and start eating, we should give ourselves a bit of time, at least about 30 seconds, half a minute, to feel the pain of this body without food. The trouble that we have to go through every day, okay, in order to to keep this body healthy. If you look at the relationship between food and your body in that way, through compassion, you wouldn't become obsessed with having to change menu all the time, because only unrepetitious menu excites some people. The same menu, the same dish, people, they have automatic rejection of having to eat the same thing. Many times I have mentioned in my training in Bhikkhu, when I was a student in a monastery, Taunggyi, our breakfast is all the same. It was all the same. We have rice, and then we have watercress. Sometimes we call it kangkung, that is soup. And we have ngapi, that is fish paste. It's quite watery. And we have sundani pe, which is quite close to red bean. Every day for 5 years. That's a very good training, because we feel bored with that sometimes and we reject that. But then we are taught to look at our mind, how our mind reacts to that food when we are about to have food. So over time, we forget about excitement. Excitement doesn't feature in our thinking anymore. If you want to train a little bit hard at home, okay, you try the same menu, the same dish, maybe for 2 days, maybe for 3 days, and see how your mind is. Maybe you can have one new dish, but then you repeat the old one, and try to see if your mind is looking for excitement. Okay, is interested. If your mind is interested more in the new dish and tends to ignore the old one, the repeated one, the old menu. If that happens, that's a good occasion to train your mind to know, okay, I need to recognize my mind is fighting with the old dish, the old menu, and is feeling delighted with the new one. Because if if you cannot get hold of, or if you cannot manage attachment to excitement, you need to forget about happiness. Excitement is a fake happiness. It's a pseudo happiness. Of course, it's very good for or big companies who want to sell you many things. People know, they employ psychologists and they know. So or your computer or your phone, they change a little bit, a bit of its features, and then they bring out a new version. The same with car, the same with many things. Because if you say, okay, this is a new version, people are going to be interested in it. We are all conditioned to go after excitement. But as I mentioned earlier, excitement means you are excited with one new thing, and then that new thing becomes, you're not interested anymore, then you need to look for something new again. It's very repetitious, it's very predictable behavior. So this is food. Even if during the working hour, if you have tea time, when you're making tea, just think about how this body needs it. And we might as well go to another step. Take about tea, making tea in the afternoon. When we think about making tea, we think about putting water into the kettle, boiling it, and then a bag of tea, maybe some people use sugar, and then milk. If you give yourself maybe about 30 minutes, 30 seconds, half a minute again, and try to retrace where the tea bag comes from, where the water comes from, where the kettle comes from, where the electricity comes from, where the milk comes from. You will have a lot of appreciation for a cup of tea. That cup of tea has a lot of potential to give you happiness. But we need mindfulness. We need to connect with the tea bag a little bit more profound, in a more profound way. We need to connect with milk. Okay, usually we just think, okay, this is from the supermarket, now it's in our fridge, and we just see milk, only that much. We don't try to go beyond that. We don't trace where milk comes from. Look at the farmers, look at the cows, the animals, and look at the processing. Many steps before milk comes to your teacup. So if you have the ability to enjoy that, to appreciate and enjoy your milk, appreciate and enjoy your tea, maybe biscuit, you will have a lot of happiness. But if you are holding, a cup of tea, and you are thinking about your work, If you're holding a cup of tea, you're thinking about the news that you have just read, the news that you have just heard, the conversation that you have just had with somebody. Then the potential happiness that the tea is there, a cup of tea is there ready to give you, you're not ready to take it. We have it in Burmese, Bega Bei Mia. This cup of tea is giving you happiness, but you're not taking it, you're not getting it. You get tea, the tea goes into your body, but not the happiness that the tea gives you. I have been to a lot of tea plantation in Sri Lanka, in Assam, in India, in Shanghai, Wuxi in China, and also here in Shan State. So when I'm about to have a cup of tea, at least I revisit those scenes and see the process, the hard work that people put in. When we do that, I will have less tendency to claim this as my tea. It will be our tea. It will be our tea. A lot of energy, converge in this tea. But if I'm so distracted with something else, and whenever I come back to this cup of tea, I would just say, this is my cup of tea. This is mine. I work for it. I earn and I buy this. It's full of I. Now we become self-centered. Looking at the tea, we become self-centered. This is just a cup of tea to use it as an example. What about clothing? What about clothing? We need to wear clothes now. I just talk about a cup of tea. You can think about say if you make a Burmese dish, all the ingredients, they come from different places, maybe different industries. And just look at that. How many things have to come together to become a dish just for one meal. And if you look at that, you appreciate the people who put in a lot of effort. If you can appreciate them, of course this appreciation only comes from the compassion that you have for yourself, that your body needs this dish. And then you're going to appreciate. This appreciation will change the taste of your food, your dish. But we are reluctant to appreciate each and every one because we think we would be indebted to those people as if we owe them something. Again here, we're not owing anything to anyone. Or we can say, just as we owe many people, we depend on many people. Many other people also depend on us. doctors rely on engineers for their housing, even plumbers. And the engineers who build the road, who build your car, so that you can reach your work, so that you can go to your work. Engineers, they also need you. They need you. And we need many other people who grow food, who manage. So we all need each other. By doing our own job, our own chosen profession properly, we are helping many other people. In the same way, when many other people are doing their chosen profession properly, they are also helping us. So wood is clothing. And when we talk about clothes, we just think, okay, we buy them from the shop. After that, we own them. We can do whatever we want to do, whatever we like with the clothes that we have bought. That looks like a mindless consumer. We need to be a mindful consumer. The Buddha teaches novices, okay, who first comes into the monastic order, that we wear robe because we need to protect ourselves from the elements, from heat, cold, from the wind, and also from small insects. And of course, we need to cover ourselves for decency. So if we have this awareness of why we need clothing, then we wouldn't have a lot of nervousness around clothing. Many people have a lot of nervousness, a lot of tension, a lot of anxiety around clothing. If what they dress up is good enough, if it's appropriate for the occasion, if it's appropriate for their social status, if it's enough to impress others. People have a lot of anxiety around clothing. This is because they dress up for other people, to impress other people. They don't dress because they feel compassion for their physical body. So we come back to compassion for the body, and we choose nice clothes, appropriate one. Okay. Appropriate one for ourselves. Sa would ne. Here, when we talk about shelter, we should add the vehicle, because sometimes people, they live in their car, they travel in their car, spending as much time as they do at home. So there's another house for them. Why you buy a car? It's because you need to feel compassion for your body. It's not possible to walk. And it's kinder for this physical body to travel, okay, by car, by train, and some form of transport. So we use them because we feel compassionate for our legs, for our body, for our heart, for our lung. They have limited energy, okay, to walk that long and every day. That is why we use car. But sometimes we don't think that way. Okay, I'm now a consultant. I need to drive Mercedes or maybe, some form of expensive car, so that people know I'm a consultant. When we have that kind of mindset, we always comparing ourselves with other people. When we compare ourselves, there are only 3 outcomes according to Buddhist psychology. According to Western psychology, 2 outcomes. That is inferiority complex and superiority complex. When you think somebody drives a more expensive car than you do, then you feel inferior. When you think your car is more expensive, then you feel superior. They are all relative feeling. Okay. Somebody who never feels inferior because he doesn't compare himself with other people. He just takes care of his own needs. If the car is good enough for him, secure enough, that's good for him. And for him, okay, it doesn't matter who drives more expensive car, he wouldn't feel inferior at all. And if his car is more expensive than somebody else, if it happens to be so, he wouldn't feel superior either. So feeling superior and inferior to other people, they are all related. If we feel superior towards certain group of people, then in some other places we might feel inferior, and we want to avoid because we don't feel good enough to be with those people, to be with successful people. In Buddhist psychology, in addition to superiority complex and inferiority complex, we also have equality complex. When you think you are equal to somebody or somebody is equal to you, we usually say in Burmese, why should I care? Okay, I have as much, I can do as much, I'm as capable. That sort of thing. In order to have some sort of self-confidence, we need to compare ourselves. We feel impelled to compare ourselves with other people. This is how we are conditioned. And the more we do that, the more we become self-centered. if you see other people driving their car, okay, that's good because, they can't walk that long going to work. They need a car. Just as I need a car to go to work. With this compassion-based attitude, you don't feel threatened by anyone who has a more expensive car anymore. And you don't feel peer pressure, to buy unnecessarily, expensive cars. If you are happy with a modest car, with this attitude, of course, if you happen to drive a more expensive car, you will be happier because of your attitude. I'm not at all against people driving nice cars. It's okay. But when we say, this is Mercedes, this is a consultant status vehicle in the UK. But when you go to Germany, every taxi is just a Mercedes. Things are relative. Good or bad, superior, inferior, things are relative. Relative truths. The same is with housing. If the house that we have serves the purpose for good health, for security, then that should be good enough. But if we keep comparing our house with other people, how many bedrooms you have, how many extra bedrooms you have, what's the postcode, and that sort of thing. If our mind is obsessed with that, our mind is vulnerable. Even if we live in the posh postcode, we still don't feel good enough if people don't know, if people don't recognize. If people are not noticing that we actually live in a posh postcode area. The mind is giving trouble to itself because it hasn't got the right motivation when it comes to consumption. It hasn't got the right education. It hasn't got the right attitude. So happiness and unhappiness, it can be in this cup of tea, or this is a glass of water, this is warm water. It can be in this. Unhappiness can be here, just as happiness. The potential to encounter unhappiness in this glass of water rests with my mind, with the state of my mind. If I become unhappy with this, I need to look within. Or if I don't feel happy making a glass, making a cup of tea and drinking it, if I don't get happiness from this, then I need to examine why I can't touch the happiness which is part of this cup of tea? Why I can't access it? You see. So happiness in daily life. Now I talk about consumption. I have talked about roughly about that. I'm going to touch on just briefly about human relationship. Harvard University has been doing research on happiness. What makes people happy? They started in 1939. 1939, and it's 80 years now. 81 years. On the occasion of 75th anniversary of this research, the director, I think the fifth director, he is a Zen Buddhist. It's on YouTube. You can listen to his lecture. He also talked about this on a TED talk. What is important for happiness? When you ask young people, they would say two things will make you happy: money and fame. You need to be famous. If you are nobody, okay, you won't be happy. You need to be somebody. If you are a big somebody, then your happiness will be greater. That's what they think. And the more money you have, the happier you would become. That's also what they think. Money plays an important role in happiness only up to a certain extent. After a certain level, money is out of equation. So according to this Harvard research on happiness, I mean, they follow the people for 80 years. Sometime is the second generation. Mainly the people from the Boston area. It includes President Kennedy, John F. Kennedy, that in the initial research subject. Some families at the beginning didn't even have running water in the Boston area in the 1939, then early 40s. Every 2 years, people check. People give a thorough health checkup of those people, and also interview them about their relationship with their family members, in their workplace, and also their income. What decides happiness is social relationship. Having a good relationship, a positive relationship with our surrounding, at work, at home, in the society. Then, if we have a competitive mind, which the business world and many other use it as an instrument to get the best out of people. But competition can be a hindrance in social relations. It makes you feel insecure. when you feel insecure, you work harder and you achieve more. So people appreciate that achievement. That is why they think competition is good, maybe it can give people happiness. But in the Buddhist psychology, it's not competition, but compassion. If you're going to work hard, if you want to become a consultant, you should do so not because your friends are consultant, not because your neighbors are consultant and you need to prove. No, you don't actually need to prove. Okay. What you need to do is to think about the patient, the people who suffer from the disease that you choose to specialize. If you want to be a consultant cardiologist, then think about people who don't know anything about cardiology and don't take care of themselves with food, with sleep, with stress management, as a result, suffer from this. And once they have this, heart problem, they have no one else to tend to accept cardiologists. They need to rely on cardiologists. The Buddha or the commentary goes as far as thinking about those patients as if they have no refuge, they have no one to tend to. They are totally, absolutely helpless. If you visualize them that way and use that as motivation, to become a consultant, you will be a much happier consultant. But if you compete with other people because they have done so, they have been there, done it, so you also want to prove you can do it, then you don't have the ingredients for happiness. You only have ingredients for stress. So this is for social relation. Social relation. We need to take care of things. And if we can take care of our daily consumption with the right attitude, and also social relation, using compassion, using mindfulness, compassion, then I can guarantee that you will be a happy person. You don't need to wait until you retire. You're happy working. And when you retire, you are happy retiree. Some people, once they have retired, they feel as if they are not important anymore. And there is a risk of depression. At work, they feel respected, they feel being useful, they feel important. But once you retire, at home, very soon, people start forgetting you. And that can be a very difficult period for many people. But from the very beginning, if we use compassion as the reason for our consumption, compassion to look at social relationship, then we shouldn't worry about feeling lonely. We shouldn't worry about feeling threatened by somebody else's success. This book also traces, science reveals how meditation changes your mind, brain, and body. This book is written by two psychologists, Harvard graduate, who started meditation at the Burmese temple in Bodh Gaya in 1971. They have never stopped meditating since then, for the last almost 50 years. On page 114, they have written, I just would like to read one or two paragraphs. When he cultivated empathy, sharing the suffering of another, she is the researcher. That's a German researcher, Dr. Taunggyi. She saw the action in his neural networks for pain. We're talking about the brain here. But once he began to generate compassion, loving feelings for someone who was suffering, he activated brain circuitry for positive feelings, reward, and affiliation. This is to say empathy is not enough. Empathy is when you feel the pain of other people. That's feeling, that's emotion. But compassion is about thinking practical solution, what we can do to help those people. Maybe by doing my job properly, indirectly or directly, I will be helping those people. Then that becomes motivation to work even harder. Tanya's group, that is, as I mentioned earlier, from Leipzig University in Germany, then reverse engineer what they found with Matthew, that is a French Buddhist monk, Matthew, by training groups of meditation first-timers in empathizing with a person's suffering or feeling compassion for their suffering. Compassion, she found, that is Dr. Singer, the German, found, muted the empathic distress that can lead to emotion exhaustion and burnout. If you can't take care of burnout issue at work, because as somebody who works hard, who has a goal, who wants to achieve big things, burnout is a problem that is just around the corner. Especially if you feel disconnected socially with your colleagues, with the patient, if you're a doctor, or with anyone else, your customers maybe, then the problem of burnout can come easily. But when we start thinking a practical solution of getting somebody out of their trouble, even before we can do anything practically, we just start thinking about that. Now compassion arises. So compassion is not only empathizing the pain of other people, but also has the desire to relieve their pain. To relieve their pain. In the Noble Eightfold Path, mediumship is in the second factor, right thinking or Dhamma. A thinking is right when it's based on compassion. Compassion means, okay, we connect with other people's pain, their existence. At that moment, we are less self-centered. Being more self-centered means we have an ingredient for unhappiness. The mind is more vulnerable. I have to show you again this book, okay? The Oxford Handbook of Compassion Science. This is compassion becoming science. The second chapter, the title is Compassion in Context, Tracing the Buddhist Roots of Secular Compassion-Based Contemplative Programs. Here they talk about compassion enhancing health, well-being, and pro-sociality. I don't want to go into detail because you can easily get hold of this. Most of the authors come from Stanford University. They have a Center for Compassion there. What I'm interested in, before I conclude this, is compassion and pro-sociality. I have already mentioned Harvard research, how being pro-social, how a good social connection is good for your health, longevity, happiness, and feeling that you have achieved something in life. Pro-sociality is about caring about the society, about other people. If we have this pro-sociality, earlier, we talk about, we had the ceremony of 5 precepts. The 5 precepts will be taken care of automatically if we have pro-social thinking. If we think about other people's pain, we wouldn't hurt them, the first precept. We wouldn't take away their belonging. We wouldn't hinder their prosperity, the second precept, and so on. Pro-sociality. And this comes with compassion. Compassion. So to conclude, compassion as the basis of routine consumption. Compassion as the attitude, as the basis of our outlook, social outlook, which is pro-sociality here. With this, we have all the ingredients, for happiness. Now, the practical thing is that the first thing when you wake up in the morning before you get up, give yourself about 3 minutes don't get up straight away. Think about what you have to do. Okay, like a shower, breakfast, clothing yourself. Have compassionate attitudes towards all of them. Towards all of them. Okay. People in Singapore, you should feel compassionate towards yourself and go to bed. The same in Myanmar. And people in America, you should feel compassion for yourself and then have your breakfast after this. People in the UK, compassion and have your lunch. You see? Have your lunch. So 3 minutes in the morning before you get up. Then about half a minute each time you make a cup of tea, each time you are having your meal, each time you change, each time you get into your car. Just half a minute. Then 3 minutes in the morning, then half a minute for each activity, major activity during the day, because we consume. When you drive your car, you are a consumer, you are consuming. When you're eating, you're consuming. When you're dressing, you're consuming. So as a consumer, now we become more responsible consumer because of compassionate attitude. With this, I like to think that happiness is not far from you, and it's not something that mysterious that you need to go to Switzerland to I mean, people who live elsewhere, they like to come to Oxford to have some excitement, to have some happiness. People who live in Oxford, they can't wait to get away from it. After all, it's not the place that decides your happiness. It's your mind, your state of mind that determines your happiness. Not even how busy you are. Not a busy life that determines happiness and unhappiness, but how you see it. It's not what somebody commands on you, but how you take it, how you look at it. That would decide whether you are a happy person or unhappy person. I think I should stop here. Alone chama chanda javasi. He said cha man, no? Bom muye atwet lude lo jare. Era ka Pamon po pwa aim pono po mwe get it aim. Eddie chan wing the cool low Dhamma low light. Dhamma low pit or lung head or youth training pono. Eddie hali low pit harabo. Eddie look at facility to the Yemen do yo Mithas not to the Robert thing Mithas yo why middle luchare ဝမ်းပြီးတော့လှူချတယ်လှူဒန်းသမျှအားလုံးကိုအခုရေဆက်ချကြရအောင် လှူဒန်းတဲ့နေရာမှာလည်းပဲအဲ့မှာကလေးတွေ facility မပြည့်စုံဘူးဆိုရင်ကလေးတွေကပို့ပြီးတော့များလာတယ် facility မပြည့်စုံမှာရေတို့နောက် toilet တို့အဲ့ဒါမျိုးတွေပေါ့နော် basic facility မပြည့်စုံဘူးဆိုရင်သူတို့တခက်ခဲရှိတယ်အဲ့ဒီကရုဏာနဲ့အဲ့ compassion နဲ့ဒီအလှူကိုလှူတယ်ဘုံမုံတို့ရဲ့တက္ကသိုလ်ရှမ်းပြည်နယ်ဗုဒ္ဓတက္ကသိုလ်9နှစ်ပဲရှိသေးတယ်9နှစ်အတွင်းမှာEnglish medium နဲ့ Buddhism ကိုသင်ပေးပါတယ်ကျောင်းသားကျောင်းသူမြန်မာနိုင်ငံပါဝင်ဆိုရင်9နိုင်ငံလောက်ရှိပါတယ်9နိုင်ငံလောက်ရှိတယ်ဒီအတွက်လည်းပဲသူကအစမို့လို့လိုအပ်တဲ့အရာတွေအများကြီးပေါ့လိုအပ်တဲ့အရာတွေအများကြီးအဲ့လိုအပ်တဲ့အရာတွေထဲမှာကိုဟာတတ်နိုင်တဲ့လောက်ဖြည့်ဆည်းပေးတယ်အဲ့လိုပေါ့ဒီအခုတရားနာနေတဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်တွေထဲမှာလည်းပဲအမြင့်လို့လိုက်အစဉ်အမြင့်လို့တရားနာနေတဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်တွေထဲမှာလည်းပဲထောင်ကြီးဆဆန်ထွန်းစေယုံ oxygen plant အတွက်လှူတဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်တွေရှိပါတယ်ဘုံဝင်မွေးနေ့ကိုအကြောင်းပြုပြီးတော့ဒါတွေလည်းပဲဒါ compassion ကိုအကြောင်းပြုပြီးတော့လှူဖို့တန်းဖို့ဘုံကတိုက်တွန်းခြင်းတယ်တိုက်တွန်းခြင်းကိုကုသိုလ်ရအောင်ဆိုပြီးတော့လှူတာအဲ့ဟာကကုသိုလ်ရပါတယ်ဒါပေမဲ့ကုသိုလ်ရအောင်ဆိုပြီးတော့ရဖို့အတွက်အဲ့ဒီအတွက်ပဲအမြဲတမ်းတွေးမနေပဲနဲ့သူများတွေစီမှာရှိတဲ့ဒုက္ခကို relief လုပ်ပေးတယ်နည်းအောင်လုပ်ပေးတယ်ဆိုတဲ့စိတ်ထားနဲ့လှူရင်လည်းပဲသူကကုသိုလ်ကတော့ရပြီသားကုသိုလ်ရပြီကုသိုလ်ရအောင်နေမခဘူးတကယ်လို့ဒီအလှူနဲ့ပတ်သက်ပြီးတော့တွေးတိုင်းကိုယ့်ရဲ့စိတ်ကပို့ပြီးတော့ကျေနပ်မှုတွေပို့ပြီးတော့ရနိုင်တဲ့ potential ပိုများတယ်တကယ်လို့ကရုဏာအခြေခံရင်အဲ့လိုမဟုတ်ဘဲနဲ့ကုသိုလ်အခြေခံတယ်ကုသိုလ်ရဖို့အခြေခံတယ်ဆိုရင်တော့တခါကိုကမေ့နေတတ်တယ်လှုပ်ထားတဲ့ကုသိုလ် compassion ကြတော့ပို့ပြီးတော့လေးနဲ့တဲ့အတွက်ကြောင့်မလို့သူကုသိုလ်လည်းရပြီသားနောက်ပြီးတော့motivation ကလည်းပဲအားကောင်းပြီသားပေါ့နော်ဒါကြောင့်ကရုဏာအခြေခံပြီးတော့လှူဒန်းကြပါတရားကိုဘုံဘုံတို့ရေးဆက်ချကြအောင်အကုန်လုံးလိုက်ဆိုကြနော်အမြတ်ပေးဝေကြမယ်အရှင်ဘုရားဖျားတပည့်တော်တို့သည်ဌာနာကုသိုလ်သီလကုသိုလ်ဘာဝနာကုသိုလ်ဤကုသိုလ်ကောင်းမှုအဆုစုတို့ကိုဒုက္ခခတ်သိမ်းငြိမ်းပါစေရန်ရည်တန်၍လူဒန်းပါ၏ဆောက်တည်ပါ၏ပွားများပါ၏ပြုသမျှကုသလကြောင့်ဖျားတပည့်တော်တို့သည်ကိုယ်ချမ်းမှာစိတ်ချမ်းသာစွာဖြင့်မိမိကောင်းကျိုး Amia Kaunju Do ye do ye Te Bosan Yet Night Basi Yene Yaku Pew Pew the Mia Kutala E Mia Pakaku Yaku Bawa She Bawa Tosa Jato Ami Apa Apo Apa Sayadaw Sayadaw Sweet Munyadaka Asata Yu Don't set the bone Chinli Jaconto Winia Tukita Dokita Tatawa Abound Amia Pewing up Amia ya yu Ko say napia Chan mama Chan tata Shija basito Amia wait me Ja the Amia
Sayadaw တခုလေးမေးချင်ပါတယ်ဆရာအဓိကတော့တခြားလူတွေလည်းဘုဒ္ဓရအောင်ပါဆရာတော်ပြောတဲ့နေရာမှာ mindful compassion ပေါ့ compassion တခုလည်းမဟုတ် mindful compassion အဲ့တော့ mindful မဖြစ်တဲ့ compassion ဆိုရင်ဘယ်လိုများ pitfall စီတွေအမှားလေးတွေများဖြစ်နိုင်လဲလို့နည်းနည်းလေးရှင်းပြ
Burn out ဖြစ်နိုင်တာပေါ့ compassion fatigue ဆိုတာရှိတယ်လေအဲ့တော့ mindful မဖြစ်တာကိုယ့်ရဲ့ emotion ကိုကိုယ်ကမသိတာcompassion ဆိုတာက तू ကဒုက္ခရှိတဲ့နေရာကို focus လုပ်တာပြဿနာကို focus လုပ်တာနော်မြန်မာပြည်အကြောင်းဆိုတော့မြန်မာပြည်ကိုကရုဏာဖြစ်တယ်ဆိုရင်ဒါမြန်မာပြည်ရဲ့ပြဿနာတွေကိုစဉ်းစားရတာမြန်မာပြည်ပြဿနာစဉ်းစားတဲ့အခါကျတော့ဟိုလူကိုအဖြစ်တင်လိုက်ဒီလူကိုအဖြစ်တင်လိုက်ဆိုရင်အဲ့မှာ mindfulness ကနည်းသွားပြီဒီနေ့ရောင်တဲ့သူရဲ့ယာပြည့်လက်မှာဖုံဖုံထက်ပြောသွားတယ်ဘာပြောဆိုတော့ရောင်တဲ့သူအေးလွတ်လာရေးသမိုင်းမှာရောနောက်ပြီးတော့ဒီမိုကရေစီလမ်းဒီလှုပ်ရှားမှုမှာရောသူကပါခဲ့တဲ့ခံကြတော့တန်ချက်တွေများတာပေါ့တိုင်းပြည်ချစ်တယ်ဆိုတာဒါကရုဏာပါပဲဒါပေမဲ့တိုင်းပြည်ချစ်တဲ့လူတွေချင်းချင်းပဲတတ်ကြပုတ်ကြတာပဲသူတို့ချင်းချင်းပဲဘယ်လိုပြောမှာတော့အချင်းချင်းဖြစ်စီကြတာပဲဘာဖြစ်လို့အဲ့လိုဖြစ်တာလဲဆိုတော့ mindfulness မရှိလို့ compassion တခုတည်းနဲ့ mindfulness မရှိဘူးဆိုရင်အဲ့ compassion ကကရုဏာဒေါသဆိုတဲ့အတိုင်းပဲကရုဏာပျောက်ပြီးတော့ဒေါသပဲရောက်သွားတယ်အဲ့ဒါကြောင့်ကရုဏာ sustainable ဖြစ်ဖို့အတွက်ဆိုရင်သူကmindfulness ရှိဖို့လိုအပ်တယ်ပေါ့ mindfulness ဆိုတာဒီနေရာတော့ ဟိုတရားထိုင်တဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်အနေနဲ့ဆိုရင်တော့စိတ်ဓာနုပဒနာလိုအပ်တာပေါ့စိတ်ဓာနုပဒနာသတိပဋ္ဌာန်လိုအပ်တယ်အဲ့တော့ mindful compassion ခေါ်တာဟို mindfulness တခုတည်းနဲ့ဝင်လေထွက်လေကြည့်တယ်ဖောင်းနေပိန်နေကြည့်တယ်စိတ်တည်ငြိမ်အောင်လုပ်တယ်အဲ့လောက်ထိပဲလုပ်တယ်ကိုက compassion မလုပ်ဘူးဆိုရင်ကိုယ့်ရဲ့ compassion က passive ဖြစ်နေတယ်sorry ကိုယ့်ရဲ့ mindfulness က passive ဖြစ်နေတယ်တကယ် compassion လုပ်တဲ့ခါကျမှကိုယ့်ရဲ့ mindfulness က active ဖြစ်တယ်ဒီ compassion လုပ်တယ်ဆိုတာပြဿနာကိုသွားပြီးတော့တွေးရတဲ့အတွက်ကြောင့်မလို့ပြဿနာသွားတွေးတဲ့အခါမှာကိုယ့်ရဲ့စိတ်ထဲမှာဒေါသရဲ့အရေးငွေတွေဒေါသအကျင့်တွေဘယ်လောက်ရှိတယ်ဆိုတာအဲ့ဒါကိုယ်ကသိခွင့်ရတာပေါ့သိခွင့်ရတာအဲ့ဒါကြောင့် mindfulness နဲ့ compassion ဒီနှစ်ခုကတွဲနေတာပေါ့နော်
Jessica
Sayadawကိုပေါ်မှာမကောင်းတာလုပ်ထားတဲ့လူကိုပေါ်မှာတိတ်စေးလာမရှိတဲ့လူဆိုရင်ဘလို့မြစ်တာပို့ပြီးတော့စဉ်းစားပါလေ
ဘုံမတရားJessica မေးတာသဘောကျတယ်ဘာဆိုတော့ပြီးခဲ့တဲ့နှစ်ကနယူးယောက်ရောက်သွားတဲ့အချိန်မှာ UN ရောက်သွားတယ်အဲ့မှာသူတို့ meditation society ရှိတယ်ဘုံမတနာရီနဲ့မိနစ်30ထင်တယ် meditation အကြောင်းအဲ့ထဲမှာဘုံမနဲ့ compassion နဲ့ဟောတယ် compassion ကြောင့်ဟောတဲ့ခါကျတော့တမ္မကြီးတရားဘာပြောဆိုရှင်ပြတဲ့ဒီ United Nations Assembly အရန်ကျန်းတယ်တဲ့မြစ်တာပို့လို့မရဘူးမြစ်တာပို့လို့မရတဲ့အခုကိုစေရနာမရှိတဲ့လူပေါ့အဲ့ဒီလူရဲ့ဟိုသူ့ရဲ့ perspective သူ့ရဲ့ pain ပေါ့သူ့ရဲ့ပြဿနာကိုကနည်းနည်းလေးခံစားပေးလိုက်ရမယ်ဒါ compassion အမှန်တော့ empathy ပဲရှိပါသေးတယ် compassion တော့မရောက်သေးဘူးအဲ့ empathy ဖြစ်ရင်ကိုပဲ तू ကနေပြီးတော့ကိုဟိုပြောဆိုတဲ့ဟာတွေကိုပုံမှာ negative ဖြစ်တဲ့ဟာတွေကိုကနည်းနည်းလေးခံစားတယ်ဘာလို့ခံစားတော့ဆိုတော့ because you understand that person this person is suffering from this that is why he or she is behaving like this အဲ့ဒီလိုပြောနိုင်တာပေါ့အဲ့လိုပြောအဲ့လိုမြင်နိုင်တယ်အဓိကကတော့ compassion ဆိုတာကကိုယ့်ကိုကာကွယ်ရလဲရောက်တယ် it's self protection သူတို့ဘာကိုကူညီဖို့တွေးတယ်ဆိုရင်သူတို့ဘာကိုကူညီဖို့ဆိုတာကသူတို့ကလည်းပဲအကူညီခံအောင်မဟုတ်တယ်မလားသူတို့လက်ခံအောင်မသူတို့လက်မခံသေးခင်မှာဒီ compassion ကwhat is function is self protection လူတယောက်ကဥပမာလူတယောက်က if somebody is suffering from negative thinking negative emotion and if I know that person is suffering from negative emotion if that person happen to give me unfair criticism I would understand that person because that person is suffering from this. It's not just me. It could happen to anyone who comes across him. So it's unlikely that I will take it too personally. I may get hit, okay, for a while. Then I would be able to recover from that. လိုတာဒီ compassion ကဒီဟာအရေးကြီးတယ်သူ ignore လို့မရဘူး ignore လုပ်တယ်ဆိုတာကသူ suppress လုပ်တာ ဒီပြဿနာကို suppress လုပ်တာသူကပောက်ကွဲတတ်တယ်အဲ့ဒါကြောင့် ignore မလုပ်ဘဲနဲ့အဲ့ဒီလူရဲ့ဒုက္ခအဲ့လူရဲ့ပြဿနာကိုတွေးပေးပါသူ့ရဲ့ပြဿနာကိုတမတ်နာအတိတကြက်နားလဲရင်$နားလဲရင်ကိုယ့်ရဲ့ဒုက္ခက$နဲသွားတယ်$နဲသွားတယ်သူ့ရဲ့ဒုက္ခကိုကိုက$လောက် ignore လုပ်လိုက်လို့ဆိုရင်ကိုယ့်ရဲ့ဒုက္ခ$တက်လာတက်ဖို့အတွက်ဟို ingredient တွေကိုကစုထားသလိုဖြစ်တာပေါ့
ဒီဘက်ကာလီဖိုးနီးယားအမေရိကကာလီဖိုးနီးယားပါ
ဟုတ်ပြီ
ဘုံဒီဘုံရဲ့ဟိုတရားတွေကိုဒီဘက် YouTube မှာခဏတွေ့ပြီးပါတယ်ဘုံဟို Biyuna meditation တို့ Mudita meditation တို့ဒီဘက်တော့တွေ့ပြီးပါတယ်အဲ့ဒါဟိုဘုံဗမာတွေဒီဘက်တော့လုပ်တယ်ဟိုမေတ္တာကမ္မထာနဲ့များပါကွာလေးလို့နည်းနည်းရှင်းပြပေးလိမ့်မယ်မေတ္တာပို့တယ်ပေါ့နော်ဟိုအားလုံးကျမ်းမာပါစေချမ်းသာပါစေလို့ဟိုမေတ္တာ$မေတ္တာပွားနည်းနဲ့တော့ဟိုရက်စက်မျက်နှာလို့အဲ့ဒါနဲ့ပုံအဲ့ဒါနဲ့ကဟိုတကယ်လို့အချိန်မရှိဘူးဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ဘယ်ဟာပို့ပြီးတော့ဟိုအကျိုးရှိမလဲဘယ်ဟာကိုကဒီနေ့လုပ်နေပါလေဘာနေအချင်းကလူနေရတဲ့အခါကျတော့ဘုံဟာနဲ့မေတ္တာကမ္မထာနဲ့ဘယ်လို process ခေါ်နေအဲ့ဒီလိုပေါ့ဟိုနည်းနည်းရှင်းပြပေးလို့
အဲ့ဒီဟောထားတဲ့တရားတွေထဲမှာရှင်းပြထားတယ်ရှိပါတယ်ဒီအခုလည်းမေးတယ်ဆိုတော့လေဘုံထပ်ရှင်းပြလိုက်ဘယ်ရမျက်နာကပုဂ္ဂိုလ်တွေကျမ်းမာပါစေချမ်းသာပါစေဆိုတာအဲ့ဒါကဇန်အထိပေါ့နော်ဒီအနည်းဆုံးအပ္ပနာဇန်ဆိုတာဒီဇန်ရဲ့အခြေခံအဲ့ဒီတမာတိအဆင့်လောက်ရှိတဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်ကြမှာသူကထိရောက်တဲ့အရာဖြစ်ပါတယ်ကိုယ့်အတွက်လည်းထိရောက်တယ်အဲ့ဒီတခြားပုဂ္ဂိုလ်တွေလည်းထိရောက်တယ်အဲ့လိုမဟုတ်ဘဲနဲ့ဆိုရင်တော့သူကဟိုဒီတိုင်းရွတ်ဖတ်တာပဲရှိတာပေါ့ဟိုဆရာဝန်က prescription ပေးလိုက်တယ်ကိုကအဲ့ဟာကိုဆေးသွားမတော့ဘူး prescription ကိုပဲကိုယ်ရွတ်နေတဲ့ပုံစံမျိုးဖြစ်တာပေါ့အခုကဘုံကဘာလောက်ခိုင်းတာဆို apply လောက်ခိုင်းတာမေတ္တာကမ္မထံကိုအဲ့ဒီဖရာခန်းရှိမှာထိုင်ပြီးတော့ရွတ်မဲ့အစားအဲ့လုပ်ငန်းခွင်ထဲမှာရောအခုဟိုထမင်းစားတော့မယ်ရေတောက်တော့မယ်ကားပေါ်တက်ပြီးတော့အလုပ်သွားတော့မယ်အဲ့နေရာတွေမှာစက္ကန့်30အဲ့ဒါ compassionate thought ကရုဏာအတွေ့ဝင်အောင်လုပ်ဖို့မောပြောတာအဲ့ဒါကမေတ္တာကမ္မထံနဲ့အကျိုးသက်ရောက်မှုချင်းထူးထူးပဲဟိုဘာလို့တူတယ်ပြောတော့ဆိုမေတ္တာကမ္မထံကလည်းပဲဒုက္ခိတအာယုံဆိုတာပြဿနာကိုသူကကြည့်ပြီးတော့ဒီပြဿနာကင်းဝေးပါစေဘယ်သူကျမ်းမာပါစေဆိုပြီးတော့သူကကိုယ့်ရဲ့စိတ်ကို training လုပ်တာဒုက္ခကိုအာယုံပြုပြီးတော့ကိုယ့်စိတ်ကို training လုပ်တာအခုတရားလည်းပဲဒီတိုင်းပဲအခုပုံမှန်ဆိုရင်တော့ထမင်းစားခါနေမှာလူအများစုကတော့ဒုက္ခသတိမရပါဘူးလက်ဖက်တောက်ခါနေလည်းပဲဒုက္ခသတိမရပါဘူးကားပေါ်တက်စီးခါနေလည်းပဲကိုယ်ကားကိုကြည့်ပြီးတော့ဒါဟိုဒုက္ခသတိရဖို့မရှိဘူးဒါမဲ့ကရုဏာပွားခြင်းတော့အဲ့ဒီဟာကိုဒုက္ခလို့မြင်အောင်ကြည့်ရကားစီးတာဒုက္ခမဟုတ်ဘူးဘာဒုက္ခတော့ကားကလာပြီးတော့ဖြည့်ရှင်းပေးတဲ့ဒုက္ခဒီကားကမရှိဘူးဆိုရင်လမ်းလျှောက်သွားမှာလမ်းလျှောက်သွားမယ်ဆိုရင်ဒီခြေထောက်ကမခံနိုင်ဘူးဒီနှလုံးကမခံနိုင်ဘူးဒီအဆုပ်ကမခံနိုင်ဘူးအဲ့လိုမခံနိုင်တဲ့ကြောင့်မလို့ဒီခန္ဓာကိုသနာတဲ့အနေနဲ့ဒီကားကိုအသုံးပြုတာအဲ့ဒါဆိုရင် तू ကအဲ့ကရုဏာဝင်လာပထမဆုံးတော့ကိုယ့်အတွက်ပဲတွေးသေးတာပေါ့နောက်ပြီးရင်တော့လမ်းပေါ်မှာတွေးတဲ့ကားတွေအဲ့ဒါကိုအချိန်လေးနည်းနည်းဖေးပြီးတော့ကြည့်လိုက်ရင်သူတို့လည်းငါလို့ပဲအလောက်ကဝေးတဲ့အတွက်ကြောင့်မလို့ဒီတိုင်း a low thought as some you car sheep or look at a edit loop to me in a look to me and yet I do it to Arabe. Karuna do it to Arabe. Yet ne Karuna Murida Paquaron, so Pomo Tura Libe Piobame. Yet ka nam you focus low pare. Dokago yo, Tukago yo. Doka yare bogo lebe, Yeta shia me. Simbi bogo o lebe, Yeta shia me. Yetaka ayo nakuslo, Jude. Karuna jaro, Doka obe, ayon pure, Murira jaro, Tuka be ayon pure. Adam won't pure jaga. Karuna ne Murira naku pao in Yeta ne, Yimyare.
ဒီမှာကျေးဇူးတင်ပါပါဘုရားဟိုဇံရတဲ့ဒီမေတ္တာဝါတဲ့ဥစ္စာဆိုတာအဲ့လိုဘယ်လိုမှတ်တမ်းနဲ့လောက်ရပါလို့
အများစုကတော့မေတ္တာပွားပြီးတော့ဘယ်သူကြမ်းမှာပါစေဆိုဒီနေမကောင်းတဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်ကြည့်ပြီးတော့သူစီကိုပဲစိတ်ရောက်နေပြီးသူကြမ်းမှာပါစေဆိုတော့မေတ္တာအတွေးပေါ့ loving kindness ဆိုအဲ့ဟာကို generate လုပ်တာသူကနိုင်ပေါင်းမြောက်များစွာလုပ်ရင်စိတ်ကအယမ်းကိုတည်ငြိမ်ပြီးတော့distraction တွေသူ့ကိုလာပြီးတော့မနှောက်ယှက်နိုင်တော့အဲ့ဒါဇန်ထဲဝင်သွားတာပဲဇန်ထဲဝင်သွားအဲ့လိုမဟုတ်ဘဲနဲ့ဥမာဝင်လေထွက်လေပဲဖြစ်နော်ကတိုင်းကြည့်တာဖြစ်အဲ့ဒီဟာကိုအရင်ကြည့်ပြီးတော့တမာတိအရင်ထူထောင်ပြီးတော့မှအဲ့ဒီမေတ္တာဇန်ထဲဝင်မယ်ဆိုရင်အဲ့ဒါလည်းတစ်မျိုးရှိတာပေါ့
ကြာဘူးလားဘုန်းကြီးတို့ကပြောတာတော့ဒီလိုဟိုလူ9ယောက်ကိုယူလူ15ယောက်ကိုယူလိုက်ပေါ့နော်ယူလိုက်ပြီးတော့9ယောက်ကတော့ကိုနည်းနည်းတော်တော်လေးကိုကြိုက်မယ်လူနောက်9ယောက်ကတော့အတိတ်အစ်ပေါ့နော်နောက်9ယောက်ကတော့တိတ်မကြိုက်ဘူးအဲ့လိုယူပြီးအဲ့15ယောက်ကိုပဲထားပြီးတော့တစ်ချိန်လုံးပွားပြီးတော့နောက်တစ်ဖြည်းဖြည်းပြန်ဖြုတ်သွားတယ်အဲ့ဒါမျိုးပုံကြားဘူးပေါ့ကြားဘူးရှိတယ်
အဲ့ဒါက emotional barrier ကို address လုပ်တာလေအဲ့ဒီပုဂ္ဂိုလ်ဒါကကိုမကြိုက်တဲ့လူဒါကြိုက်တဲ့လူဆိုတာကကြိုက်တယ်မကြိုက်ဘူးဆိုတော့ကိုယ့်ရဲ့ emotional state ကိုပြောတာအဲ့တော့ကြိုက်ချင်းမကြိုက်ချင်းဆိုတော့ကိုယ့်ရဲ့စိတ်အမူအရာကိုဖယ်ရှားဖို့အတွက်အဲ့ဒီပုဂ္ဂိုလ်တွေကိုတီးတန့်စီကြည့်ရတာမကြိုက်တဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်ကြည့်တဲ့နေရာမှာမကြိုက်တဲ့ဒီ reaction တွေပေါ်လာတယ်ဆိုရင်အဲ့ reaction တွေကိုကိုကကင်တွယ်ဖို့အတွက် address လုပ်ဖို့ manage လုပ်ဖို့အခွင့်အလမ်းရတာဒါဝိသုဒ္ဓိမတ်ထဲမှာပါတဲ့ဟာလေးပါမကြိုက်တဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်အနေသွားမစားအဲ့အနေသွားစားရဆိုရင်ဓမ္မတိမကောင်းသေးတဲ့အချိန်မေတ္တာမကောင်းသေးတဲ့အချိန်မှာတခါတည်းဒေါသလွှမ်းသွားလိမ့်မယ်ဒီလူဟာမျိုးပေါ့ဒါတွေကကိုယ့်ရဲ့emotional barrier ကိုaddress လုပ်တာအဲ့လို address လုပ်တဲ့အခါကိုဝေဖန်တဲ့လူသူ့ကိုစိတ်မဆိုးတော့ဘဲနဲ့သူ့ကိုတနာတဲ့စိတ်ဖြစ်တယ်သူကောင်းတာကြည့်ပြီးတော့မုရိဒာဖြစ်တယ်ဆိုရင်အဲ့အုပ်စု9အုပ်စုစလုံးကတအုပ်စုတွေဖြစ်သွားပြီမေတ္တာတုတ်ထဲမှာပါတဲ့ဟာကဒုက္ခိနောဝခေမိနောဟောတုသဗ္ဗတတ္တာအကုန်လုံးဆိုတာကသူအဲ့9ခုစလုံးပေါင်းသွားတာကိုပြောတာမပေါင်းတဲ့ခင်မှာတော့နည်းနည်းစိတ်ဖြစ်တဲ့အရာနေစပါအဘဲနေစမှာတော့အဲ့လိုမျိုးတွေသူpractical instruction တွေရှိတာပေါ့gender မတူတဲ့လူနဲ့မစားနဲ့ရာခတဲ့ပါသွားလိမ့်မယ်နောက်ပြီးတော့ဆုံးပါသွားတဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်နဲ့လည်းမစနဲ့ဝန်းနေတဲ့စိတ်တွေကကိုယ် consume လုပ်သွားမယ် overwhelm ဖြစ်သွားလိမ့်မယ်အဲ့ဒါတွေကတော့ သူ့ရဲ့ instruction တွေပေါ့အထူးသဖြင့်တရားထိုင်တဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ် emotion ကိုကြည့်ပြီးတော့ဒါအဆင့်5ဆင့်လောက်မလား4ဆင့်လောက်မလား3ဆင့်လောက်2ဆင့်ပဲလောက်မလားအဲ့ဒါမျိုးတွေကတော့ဒါဟိုတရားပြတဲ့ဆရာတော်နဲ့သူယောဂီနဲ့သူဆုံးဖြတ်မဲ့ဟာတွေပေါ့
တရားလောက်အောင်ရှိတဲ့ဟိုမတ်တက်နဲ့ပြထားတဲ့မေတ္တာအဲ့လိုမျိုးကိုစောက်စားတော့များရှိပါမကိုမပြောတော့ဖတ်ကြည့်
ရှိပါတယ်ဟိုဟိုချမ်းမြေဆရာတော်ကြီးတို့ချမ်းမြေဆရာတော်ကြီးမေတ္တာကြောင့်ချက်နဟောတာရှိတယ်စာအုပ်ရှိတယ်ဒိတ်ခွေတွေရှိတယ်အမေရိကန်မှာနေတယ်ဆိုရင်ဟိုရွှေရောင်ကုန်းဆရာတော်ရဲ့တပည့်ဖြစ်တဲ့Sharon Salzberg ဆိုတာသူက loving kindness တဲ့စာအုပ်ကအခုပြောတဲ့ဟာတွေအကုန်လုံးပါတယ်ဒီတဲ့လွယ်တာတော့ပါသေးတယ်သူဟုတ်တယ်ဟိုအမေရိကန်မှာရှိတယ်သူအမေရိကန်မှာရှိတယ် Amazon ကိုရှာကြည့်လိုက်ဟို Sharon Salzberg ဆိုတော့ Salzberg က SAL ZBURG Salzberg Sharon Salzberg အဲ့စာအုပ်ရှိတယ်အဲ့စာအုပ်ကဒါရွှေရောင်ကုန်းဆရာတော်ကြီးရဲ့နီးနာနေတရားမိခိုးပြီးတော့သူကချက်ထားတာပေါ့ချက်ထားတာအဲ့ဆရာမကြီးကဟိုအမေရိကန်မှာခုတည်းထိသူမေတ္တာကမ္မထမ်းနေတင်ကြားနေတော့ရှိပါသေးတယ်သူဟိုတယ်မှာလေMassachusetts မှာရှိတဲ့ Insight Marine Society တခါသူအဲ့မှာတရားပြတယ် online မှာလည်းရှိပါတယ်online မှာလည်းရှိပါတယ်သူရဲ့ lecture တွေရှိပါတယ်
ဒီပြောတာကမြစ်ကြောင်ပါဗျာချိပါပေါ်နေပြီးတော့အခု clay တွေနေနေတော့ဟိုကြားရနေဆိုတော့ sorry ပဲ
ရတယ်
အခု clay တွေကအရင်တော့ဒီမှာဒီတော့ဒီတော့သူဖျားရှိခိုးတဲ့ဟိုတရားထိုင်နေဆိုတော့9မိနစ်5မိနစ်ပေါ့လို့လုပ်ပါတယ်ဗျာအခု clay က college ရောက်တဲ့ခါကျတော့ဝေးရောက်လာတဲ့ခါကျတော့အဲ့နိုင်လောက်ကတော့ဒါနလို့တိကတော့သူတို့ဆက်ပြီးတော့ဖြစ်အောင်ဆက်ပြီးတော့လုပ်ခိုင်းပါတယ်ဗျာဒါပေမဲ့ဗုဒ္ဓဘာသာနဲ့ပတ်သက်ပြီးဝေးတော့မှဆိုလို့ next step အခုလိုဆရာတော်ပြောလို့စားရတယ်ဒီနားထောင်တာပဲပြီးတော့တန်းတန်းကိုလုပ်ပါမယ်ဒါပေမဲ့နောက် step တစ်ခုအဲ့ဒါဘယ်ဘက်ကိုစပြီးတော့လမ်းညွှန်ပြီးပြောရင်ကောင်းမှာဗျာဟိုပစ္စလေးပါတယ်စာမလားဘယ်လိုပဲနည်းနည်းလေးတူကြုံတော့ဗျာ polish အောင်ဝေးအောင်လည်း clean တော့
stress management ကနေစပါcollege ရောက်သွားဆိုတော့ stress တွေရှိတယ်အဲ့ stress ရှိတဲ့နေရာမှာ stress management ကို stress management အတွက်ပေါ့နော်ဗုဒ္ဓတရားကိုအသုံးပြုပြီးတော့အမေရိကသေဘပညာရှင်တွေသူတို့လှုပ်ထားတာအများကြီးပါအခုဒါဘုံဘုံပြောတဲ့စာကိုဒီစာအုပ်ကတခုပေါ့နော် auto trace ဆိုတာဒါDaniel Goleman emotional intelligence ရဲ့ဘုတ်ကိုနောက် Richard Davidson က Wisconsin ကပါသူကဟို neuropsychologist ပေါ့ဒီစာအုပ်ကတော့ England ပါTheodore Mendai on our Siddhartha's brain and အဲ့ဒီအမျိုးတွေဟိုcollege ကျောင်းသားတွေintellectually active ဖြစ်နေတဲ့အချိန်မှာဟိုထပ်ထုတ်ထဲမှာလည်းပဲ mindfulness to compassion အဲ့ဒါအများကြီးရှိတယ်အဲ့ဒါအများကြီးရှိတယ်အဲ့ဒါတွေရှာပြီးတော့ပေးနေရတယ်ဟိုမြန်မာဗုဒ္ဓဘာသာရှုထောင့်တက်ကနေပြီးတော့ပေးရင်ပေါ့နော်ဒါဩကာသဆိုရမယ်ပရိကြီးဒီဖျားဝတ်တဲ့ဒီလိုလောက်မယ်ဆိုတချို့ဟာတွေကကိုယ်ရံမှနှစ်ချိုင်းနေမှာနားလေတဲ့အရာတွေလေဩကာသကိုကဆိုတာဘာအတိတ်ပဲမှကိုကဟိုချက်ချင်းမှမသိတာကိုမသိတဲ့ဟာကိုတို့အဲ့ဒီဟာနဲ့သွားပြီးတော့တို့စဖေးရင်တို့တော့ခက်တာပေါ့
ဒီမှာဖျား
အဲ
ဒီမှာလည်း mindfulness ကလည်းပို့ပြီးတော့ဥစားတော်တော်များများ
ဟုတ်တယ်ကောင်းတယ်ကောင်း
ကျေးဇူးတင်ပါတယ်ဖျား
ကောင်းပါပြီကောင်းပါပြီ